And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who's really wanted to visit beautiful Colorado. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And boy, oh boy, is it ever beautiful here today in Southern California. I and the Colonel are not on Milleronia, and I'll tell you why soon. But it's just gorgeous. You know what? And always nice to be home. And I'll tell you why also soon. We were just on a trip. But I'm so happy because, well, as always, the music gets me off in a good mood. And the Colonel, too. And, of course, that's the Vern Troyer Orchestra and the Tricia Morrison Dancers, featuring boy tenor Brad Simpson asking the musical question, does every doorman in New York think they're better than the building's tenants? Well, that's a heck of a question. I said that to the Colonel just before we started. I said, good question from Brad. I don't know what your experience has been. Well, to be honest, I lived in New York quite a bit, but I never had a doorman. I lived in one brownstone. Let's see, that was on the west side. And that was a 5-story walk-up, and then another building, a brick building on the east side on 83rd Street. And that was a 5-story walk-up, so we didn't have, well, you don't have a lot of doormen in walk-ups, but these were nice buildings too, and not even sure. By the way, I'll tell you something very quickly about 83rd Street. There was a movement, I guess that's the right word for it, to get a lot of the hookers, prostitutes, down off of 86th Street on the east side. And the funny thing, that's near right where I worked at all the comedy clubs, and just, I didn't notice any hookers. Isn't that stupid? Shouldn't I notice? Shouldn't a fella notice prostitutes? But they were cleaned out of 86th Street by the police, who told them to, okay, move on. And they came down to 83rd Street, which was my block at the time. And, well, I noticed it then because that was filled with, well, hookers. And, people would say, oh, the parents in the area, and a lot of kids in apartments, and parents were saying to the police, well, why'd you move them here? Can you move them somewhere else? To 82nd Street, anywhere? And, they said, well, no, they picked 83rd, and, we just got them off of 86th and this and that. And a thing happened that all the kids in the area, in the whole neighborhood, and when I say kids, I'm talking about 8, 10, 12, 13, about those ages there, all got eggs from the local supermarkets. And they would get a couple of dozen each and go up to the roof of their building and all the roofs of the buildings on the whole block. And yes, they would egg the hookers. And they you didn't even have to hit anybody. They'd toss them down from the roof. And if it just hit, there was a post office on that block. And if you just hit the post office, they would splay. They would explode like grenades, these eggs, and kapowie. And well, I know. It's not the nicest thing in the world to do, maybe, but I will tell you one thing. There were no more hookers there, and so the mission accomplished, I guess you could say. And I don't know where they went after that. I don't know where the kids went after that. Maybe they were signed by the Yankees. But you know what? That's part of not having, I guess, doormen on the block. But anyway, you know what, Brad? It's a good question. Does every doorman in New York think they're better than the building's tenants? I don't think so. I never noticed that on when friends had a doorman. I'm not a big noticer, maybe, but I don't think that's true at all. And by the way, I played a doorman on Seinfeld, and I had a great time. Even though I never personally had a doorman, as I said, I just made my character tough and sexy, like all my parts. Yes, they are. And but I don't know about thinking they're better. I had a friend who was a doorman, and we hung out. He was an Englishman named Frank, and we hung out in a bar called Drake's Drum on 2nd Avenue on the east side there, and right around the corner from my building, by the way, which is smart if you're hanging out in bars. Well, it's only 85 feet away from your apartment. But Frank used to say that he was a great guy. And, if you stay in Drake's Drum was a great place. And if you stay in a place too long, bars, I'm sure you know this, well, you can get pretty loaded. And that doesn't help you at work the next day. And I remember I had lunch with Frank at Drake's Drum also. We just happened to wander in there to grab a paper and sit there at the bar and get a pint of Guinness and something to eat. And Frank had been in Drake's the night before, and boy, he was he walked in that place. I saw him, and he looked it. I mean, he looked like this was it had been a good 3:00 or 3:30 in the morning jaunt for him. And as he and I both commiserated that it was a good place, Drake's Drum, and the bartenders were really nice, and the owners too. And they used to then, so by 2 or 3 in the morning, they would start, serving up shots of whiskey too, in addition to the pints of Guinness you were drinking. There was a big pints of Guinness place, and so if you're gonna have, that means 4 or 5 shots of Jameson's in addition to the Guinness. And Frank and I shook our heads because he looked like he had gotten, because in that place in Drake's, they gave you the shots. You could put that in quotes. It wasn't like a shot glass. They used rocks glasses without the rocks in them, and each drink was 2 to 3 shots in there. And I remember Frank saying, and they're not doing fivers neither. And we both chuckled because that's true that he still had to go to work, and he was a doorman. And I maybe Brad, the answer to your question is, does every doorman in New York think they're better than the building's tenants? I don't think so. But maybe the doorman you saw had just been in Drake's Drum the night before. And they were not better for it. They'd been there late, and they didn't do them no fivers, neither. In any case, good question, Brad. Does every doorman in New York think they're better than the building's tenants? I don't think so. But I'll bet you do. Thanks for writing that one in. By the way, Trisha Morrison, and I mentioned her as, the Trisha Morrison Dancers. And she was a dancer, and a great dancer. And she just passed away at age 103. And that's a pretty good life. And she was a star on Broadway for a long time and had a movie contract. Paramount brought her out. But she was the first star in Kiss Me Kate on Broadway, and in The King and I, which is also on Broadway. And so you know what, Trisha, well done. God bless you, and good luck in your next dancing job on Broadway. And I mentioned Vern Troyer, the great Vern Troyer. He just passed away a couple of weeks ago. A wonderful actor, and if you don't know his name, you know his look. He's been in so many movie parts, and one of which is a real standout. He played Mini-Me in Mike's movies, the Goldmember, and what was the other one? Oh, and thank you, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Those are great movies, by the way. They're just terrific. And Mike made Vern Mini-Me, and Vern was great. Not in that part. He really made that into something, as you know, and he was just a blast to watch every second he was on the screen. And I knew him. He and I had worked together. We were in a movie called, I think, Crystal's Christmas. And I think I've been embarrassed like this before. If you're in the movie, shouldn't you know the name of it? And Vern and I were in it together. We had a lot of scenes together, and we became friends, and I really liked him. And he liked me, and he was just a blast to hang around with, and a great actor, a great talent. And he was just fun to be with. And, oh, folks, Vern, he wasn't an old man. He was just 40, 45 when he passed on, and just a week or two ago. And what a smile. What a great guy. And thanks for everything, Vern. It's a pleasure not just to have known you, but to know you still. And good luck also in your next movie part up there. And I'll bet you're in one. And by PayPal. That's right, PayPal. You know what? If you like my show, and why wouldn't you? And you want to help us by sending a few bucks to help, well, and why wouldn't you? You can do it through PayPal. It's a terrific group. You know that when you work with PayPal, you feel like, maybe you're saving the world yourself, and who knows? I bet you are. And so, send something in. And by the way, instead of saying donate or pay what you like or join the Platinum Committee or something, I always like to say, buy us some drinks, all right? Because there are different levels, level 1 through 5, all the way up to, we're driving to Florida! That's great. That was the way old Vern could sound too, by the way. What a great guy. At any rate, yes, we're driving to Florida. So what you want to do is look for the PayPal banner on our website. Sure, you can get to PayPal 100 different ways, but you know what? Go with our website. And we have a banner on it that says PayPal. So to get to our website, you just type in on anything, Larry Miller Podcast. That's just pathetic that I can never remember the things that are actually in my life. LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the Mountain? Tom Mix.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
Oh, that was good work, Colonel Jeff. That was, of course, the great Lee Ermey. And he passed on, too, and I was so glad to mention him also that was, I guess, a month or two ago. And what a great actor. What is your major malfunction, numbnuts? He's great. And a real-life Marine, and tough as nails, and kind of guy. He was made the Marines just great. Like my son, who is staying with us now, and I'll tell you more about that. And he knew about Lee, and they all did, because they all really looked up to Lee Ermey, and they should. And hiya, pal, have a seat. And he is my son, the Marine, Corporal Miller. He is in our studio right now, and he and I spoke yesterday. I said, come on down and say hello. But, you know what, do that with PayPal. Look for their banner on our website, which, remember, is LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the Mountain? Tom Mix. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have had the fish. But every little bit helps us keep the old leg lamp lit. And thank you to everyone who's contributed already, and thank you to everyone who's just about to. And, You know what? That brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. And this is a good one. Colonel Jeff and I like this one very much. A man takes his wife to the golf course to let her play a little golf and help teach her how to play golf. And they're ready to, it's a beautiful day. It's gorgeous. It's a weekend day and in the afternoon. And, well, they're about to have a good time. And he says to his wife, just to remember, just be careful. Don't go crazy. Anything you do is fine. And she says, okay. And this is at the first tee. And, well, sure enough, she hauls off and she puts everything into it and hooks it and slices it, does everything. This thing goes off at, well, 1,000,000 miles an hour, right off the course and into one of the beautiful homes that you see sometimes on golf courses. And it goes smash right through the big living room window. Cracko, that golf ball just shatters it. And the husband says, oh, boy, now I got to, find this guy who owns a house. Oh, boy, all right. But they do. They walk over there. They run across the fairway there, and they run across another one and right into the house that she hit. And they knock on the door. And, well, surprisingly, a very pleasant, sweet voice comes from the house of, come in, please. And they're a little surprised, but the guy does that. He opens the door. It's unlocked, and they walk in, and they see a very nice fella smiling. And he's, middle-aged, about 50 years old, and he's lying down on the couch in the living room with his feet crossed and nice smile on his face and says, hi, folks, come on in, and I assume you're the people who just broke my window there? And the guy says, yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You know what, this is... Well, we did, and sometimes my wife did, it didn't, but, we're just sorry. And whatever it is, and as he's talking, the fellow on the couch says, oh, stop it. Just take it easy. I'm not upset. You see, I'm a genie. And the truth is, I've been living in this house, imprisoned in this house for 1,000 years. And you see, by damaging that window and breaking it like that, you've freed me. Now I can leave. I can just walk right out of this house in which I've been a prisoner for so long. And well, the husband and the wife both say, well, frankly, it's wonderful to hear and to know that you're not upset. And the genie says, well, now, just before you leave, though, as being a good genie, I'm going to offer you 3 wishes. And you get them. You must have heard of that. And they, yes, 3 wishes. And the genie says to them, now, to the husband, I'm going to give you 1 wish, and I'm going to give your wife another wish. And if you don't mind, well, I'm going to save the 3rd wish for myself. Does that sound fair? And they said, yes, it's one of the 3 wishes. And they're overjoyed. And the genie says to the husband, what would you like? The husband just immediately says, I'd like $1 million a year for life, every year. And the genie says, it is done. And he says to the wife, and what would you like? And she said, I would like a gorgeous house in every country in the world, a mansion with servants in every country in the entire world. And the genie just waves his hand again and said, it is done. And they're both, they're so happy. And then the genie says to them, now, I'll tell you what my wish is. And I hope this is to your liking, but I've been a prisoner here for 1,000 years, and I haven't seen a woman in that entire time. And this lady, your wife, is very beautiful. I would like to just take her upstairs to my room and be with her, and just to have sex with her. And they're both a little shaken, and the wife looked at the husband. I hadn't expected this, and the husband kind of whispers, well, he's been so nice. He could have just puffed us into something else, but he he's given $1 million a year now we got, and plus a house in every country in the world, a mansion with servants, and just, and I think, maybe we ought to go along with it. Maybe she's a little off put by it. But, well, all right. And sure enough, she and the genie, the genie gets off the couch and he walks her upstairs. And 3 hours he's up there in his room with her, and they make love. They do it this way, that way, the other way, and they're just lying down in the bed there after the whole process. And the genie says, well, that was wonderful. And how old are you and your husband? And she says, well, we're both 35. And he says to her, well, that's old enough for you not to believe in genies. We've talked about this before, but that's a good kind of joke of, oh, you mean what the, oh no. So not only, they're not going to, well, what about the million? There's no $1 million a year. There's no houses anywhere. This is just some guy. And they broke his window, and that's what he said. And that's what they just did. Anyway, I hope you like that one. And as always, if you do, pass it along to someone you love, someone in your family, one of your friends. That's a pretty good joke. And that's, oh, you idiot. And that brings us to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. I think I'd be coughing like that if I were the guy in that house whose wife, what? On a sip of tea, what? Anyway, this is a very good poem called The Trust by a great poet named Robert William Service. He lived from 1874 to 1958 and wrote The Cremation of Sam McGee and The Shooting of Dan McGrew. Those are good titles, by the way. I don't think I know those poems, but they sound like they'd be good ones. In any case, he wrote this one, Robert William Service, called The Trust. Because I've 80 years and odd, and darkling is my day, I now prepare to meet my God, and for forgiveness pray. Not for salvation is my plea, nor heaven, hope, just rest. Begging, dear Father, pardon me, I did not do my best. I did not measure with the just to serve my fellow men, but unto levity and lust I loaned my precious pen. I sorrow for the sacred touch, and though I toiled with zest, dear God, have mercy, inasmuch I did not do my best. I bless you for the gift you gave that brought me golden joy, yet here beside the gentle grave I grieve for its employ. Have pity, Lord, so well I know I failed you in the test, and my last thought is one of woe. I did not do my best. That's lovely, isn't it? This man, Robert William Service, knew how to use words, and I hope you like that too, and I hope you feel the same way we do here. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show, the Magic Movie Moment. Boy, and this is a great movie, too. It's called Stalag 17 from 1953. Directed and produced and written by Billy Wilder. Good Lord, the great Billy Wilder. Starring, what a cast this had. William Holden, Michael Lembeck, Peter Graves, Sig Ruman, Otto Preminger, And by the way, you know all these people if some of the names don't sound familiar. Peter Graves, good Lord. You know him from, well, the Airplane movies, and just, he was also the one of the fellows on Mission Impossible, the head of the whole thing. But he's been in so many movies and TV shows, and he was a great actor, and he was in this one. Michael Lembeck. And Sig Ruman. I always loved him. He was in Marx Brothers movies as well, and in this he's a very dramatic actor. And the great Otto Preminger. In any case, this is set in a German prisoner of war camp. Well, it's for Americans and for Brits. And it's in World War II. And, well, one thing you can agree on, the Germans weren't kidding around. No matter what they did, they were tough doing it. And I'm glad we beat them. But in this one, well, William Holden is sort of a cynical New York's, sophisticate, and he doesn't look kindly on other people in the other parts of the world, and the other prisoners don't like him at all. And he's in the barracks there, and they keep getting madder at him. They beat him and they push him around, and he doesn't like anything. And by the way, this is important because there's a spy in their barracks. And this spy is giving all the words. The movie opens with, well, 2 American soldiers who escaped from the camp. And they tunneled out. And as soon as they got out of that tunnel, the Germans were there with their machine guns and just mowed them down. And that's quite a start and to this horrible, this setting in this movie in Stalag 17. And you know what, though? And we get a feeling as we're watching Peter Graves, who's a nice American boy in this, but we get a feeling from the start, this guy doesn't feel right to me. And we know, there's nothing given away here. This is a classic plot. Peter Graves is the spy, is the German spy, and William Holden decides to trick him, to find out, to make sure he hides. And they get all the prisoners out of the barracks, but he hides in the barracks. And Sig Ruman, the sergeant, by the way, his name is Sergeant Schultz in this movie. So I don't know if the Hogan's Heroes writers just took that name from there, but Sig Ruman is great in it. And he comes into the barracks to talk with his man, Peter Graves, and they both speak in German, but they don't know William Holden is hiding there. So now he has the proof. He knows this is the guy. And you know what? The magic movie moment for me is near the end, and he's waiting. William Holden hasn't told anyone, and he keeps getting dumped on and beaten up by his own people who think he's the spy. Of course, he's not. And he's just looking for the right moment to tie it all together. And near the end, this is a real magic movie moment, folks. They all know. Holden tells them, it's Peter Graves. This is the guy. And Graves tries to get out and escape from the barracks there. And they tackle him. They hold him down there. They don't let him do that because they know the Germans are all out there waiting for them to run out. All the Americans to run out. And they're armed with belt-fed machine guns and submachine guns and rifles on all the roofs, just pointing right at the barracks. And William Holden is going to take one of the escaped prisoners who was hiding with them out of the country. And he's going to escape too. But first, they have to do it this way. As Colonel Jeff pointed out, if they just killed Peter Graves, well, that would ruin everything. That'd be horrible, because all the Germans then would just kill them and send them to different camps, or just get another spy to come in and be in the barracks. But they don't. What they do is they tie a bunch of cans right on Peter Graves' legs. And they got their hands on his mouth there, and they're just ready, and Graves knows what they're going to do. They throw him out of the barracks with those cans making a ton of noise, and he's screaming because he knows his German buddies are out there, and they're going to kill everyone who comes out that door. And Graves, you can hear him screaming in German, "Nicht schießen," don't shoot, I'm the this, I'm the that. Sure enough, they do shoot and they mow him down with a zillion shots. And, well, the movie continues, and that's how it comes near its end. But boy, oh boy, folks, it's a heck of a movie. Billy Wilder is one of the greatest directors we've ever had. And what a cast. And the great William Holden. Boy, he could play anything. But all these guys could. So next time you see the movie Airplane, and you see Peter Graves in the plane as the pilot, and he's very funny too, but he's a terrific actor. But remember, he's in Stalag 17. See it. If you haven't seen it, see it. If you've seen it 30 times, see it again. You'll be glad you did. And you know what? It reminded me that, see, the reason we couldn't do a show last week is because I took a trip. Not to a Stalag, but you know what? My wife and I and our older boy, and he's the Marine I've been telling you about, and he was on leave. He got back from his second deployment, and then he was in a Special Weapons Training Institute in, well, I don't know if I can say the state. Can I?
Yeah, it's WTI. It's twice a year. It's in Yuma, Arizona.
Well, he was there, and they had a lot to teach, and he's a good learner. And we just, well, as you can imagine, we adore him. And just the whole, he came back here, and he had a couple of nights away. He was here for a couple of weeks already. And he had a couple of nights away with his old friends from high school. And he had an old girlfriend, even saw her briefly. But it's funny because when you care about someone like this, you know, any second I can't stand just staring at him is like a buried treasure for me. Well, where's the treasure? It's right there. But anyway, God bless him, he's with us. And the three of us flew to Colorado to see his younger brother, who just finished his freshman year at the university there in Boulder, Colorado. And by the way, he rows crew. He's on the crew team there. And his mom and I have gone a couple of times to, well, see him in a regatta. I love that's how they call them. It's a regatta. It's not a match. It's not a competition. Well, it's all of those, but they call them in crew. It's a heck of a sport. And you know what? It's beautiful country there in Boulder, Colorado, at the foothills of the Rockies. And, oh, boy, did we have a good time. The four of us, we stayed at a brand-new Embassy Suites hotel, which was frankly terrific. It's not that it's, like a Four Seasons or the fanciest place in the world. It's even better because it's so accessible. Boulder is a kind of a city you can walk around. After just 10 minutes there, you can walk around it. It's not a big city. It's, in fact, a small city. And everyone is so friendly. I'm telling you, and this city is small enough to walk anywhere. And the three of us got there. And, well, we got together with our younger son. And, folks, as you can imagine, that's the greatest thing in the world. We might as well, you could have said to us, would you rather the four of us were in Paris right now or London or something? No, never, not at all. Boulder's great, and that Embassy Suites was terrific. And the city was great. Very good food in the hotel, by the way, and that's worth saying. I mean, very, very good. These Boulder folks really know what they're doing. Breakfast in the hotel was terrific and free, by the way. Did I mention free? That's just something I always, especially being an actor and a comedian, once you have to pay for things when you're not working, if you got a part in a movie or you're on the road in doing comedy, well, it's great because they make it part of the deal. Everything's free. The hotel is free. The food is free. Everything's free. But not in real life. So in real life, you have to pay for it. Have you noticed that? But you know what? What a city Boulder is. Small crowds, very calm and quiet. which I think is great. You know, this place was so friendly. I'm telling you, you feel like you belong there after just half a day. We were there 5-6 days, and you really feel like you live there and belong there. We could give directions to any place. When people asked, hey, do you know where this is? And I'll bet all the new people thought we were natives. Even when, by the way, we didn't get any maid service for 2 days. And, you know, I can be cranky within about 30 seconds on anything, you know, and I just said, oh, come on. And when I say no maid service, I mean, we'd call and leave a message in the maid's headquarters there and say, yes, here, the Millers were here, we're in this room, and, you know, could you please send someone as soon as possible? And they essentially said, no, we can't. And I would call down to the front desk, and I'm telling you, I left 4 messages. I'd speak to people in the front desk, and no one came. And then on the second day, I said to the people at the front desk, do me a favor. Pretend I'm your brother or your oldest friend, and help me out here. Don't just call the maid's headquarters office there. Don't just call and say, okay, could you do this? Okay, thanks, bye. Tell them, hey, look, you know, go do this now, please. Now. And, but you know what? My wife figured something out. Sure, I got cranky and I'm ready to kill someone, but Eileen saw the maids in the hallway there and tipped them with a smile, gave them $10 each. And just to thank them for, you know, they're about to clean some of the rooms and to clean our room, and told them where it was. They were so happy that she came up to them with a smile and gave them, well, nice tips. And I learned a lesson. And I think you know the same lesson, but it's a good one to learn again. Being cranky never gets you anything. But a smile and a few bucks will. And you know what? What's wrong with that? The restaurants were great, as I said. Our son Ro's crew there, he's a sculler. They've traveled a lot to row in regattas in different states. By the way, it's interesting. Half the local people were outdoorsy and fit and really looked great. They had all the right outfits on to climb the Rockies. And the other half of the people, and it's just, you know, something you kind of notice, young, old, 20s, 30s, 40s. The other half were, well, they weren't going to climb anything. They were fat. They were very, very fat. And it's, and I'm noticing, you know, I'm just mentioning, you walk into a restaurant and say, holy mackerel. I mean, I got to lose a couple of pounds, but not 200, you know, and these folks, so it's a great place to be. Here's the bottom line for Boulder, Colorado, folks. Beautiful, small, friendly, delightful. Good place to visit, especially you have a kid in school there. And we're going there again. We like going there. We've been there a couple of times already. But we'll be back. And it was just terrific to be there with the whole family. And we had our doggies, by the way, at a dog place, like a dog hotel. And we could see them. They have a thing at this place. It's here in Southern California that my wife could, when we went to a restaurant to eat, you can turn on the dog room. They have a camera there, and you can sit and watch your dogs, well, just snoozing or lying down and playing with some dogs, other dogs, and playing with them always looks like a death fight to me. I don't know about you. I never quite got the thing. Whoa, they're just playing. Well, doesn't look like that to me. It looks like, well, ancient Rome and in the arena that they're playing. But as I said, we could be there in the restaurant, watch our doggies, and have a great meal, and just look at each other and say, Handy, I kept saying that, isn't this great? We made it. We're here. And we're all together. And my son, the Corporal, is here with us. He's the only voice I've ever had on this show that wasn't me. And it's just, who knows, maybe we'll do that someday. But I love the show, and I like you guys. I just like talking to you. But I said to him yesterday, why don't you come on down and say hello because he's deploying again Sunday. And he's great for it. He's a great Marine and a great guy, and he's great to go to a restaurant with. You want to say hi?
Hello.
He's not talkative, but he really is. He's funny. He's sweet. He's just and he's had a good time being here. And as I told you, you're going to a concert with some friends tonight, right?
No, I'm going to Dave and Buster's.
What? Right.
Almost as good.
And Dave and Buster's is a restaurant?
Yeah, it's like that adult arcade place. So it's like a bar inside of an arcade.
Oh. So it's not a bar. It's just like a bar.
Yeah, it's like it has a bar. If that makes any better.
Well, if you feel like it, you could go over to the bar.
Yeah, that's why it's there. It's the best of both worlds. It's for people who want to act like kids, but not act like kids.
You know what? I know just what you mean, and everyone listening does too. Well, you'll have a good time there, and you're going to go somewhere with Mommy today. And but all I know is I can't wait till you get back, so I can make you something to eat and just stare at you while you eat it. So thanks for being here.
No problem.
And you look good. I woke him up. He has a great thing that I just envy so much. He can sleep late. He's on leave now. So you know what? We're here in the studio at Stately Miller Manor, and he could still, be in bed. I didn't wake him up. He was already just, kind of lazing around there, stretching and looking at something on his phone. And I don't know what it is, but there's no little bar on that phone. Is there?
Not yet.
Folks, be well. That's my son, the Corporal. And you know what? Well, you do know what. We know the same things, you and I. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. And remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. And that's sure true as much as you love your kids. Be well. We'll see you here next time.